Hey YouTube, Mochismo Eugene, another video. Exit strategy here. The title of this video is They Weren't Expecting You. They were not expecting you. They meaning the narcissist, the dark energy human animals. Because that's what they are. They're human form with animalistic behavior. This is not to demean anyone, but I just call it for what it is so you'll know what it is when you see it. Let's not compromise with this. They were not expecting you. My friend Denzel Moss has been putting a video out per day, seems like. I mean, it's an urgency out here and I can feel it. And you empaths that are awakened, you can feel it too. One thing real quick, there's another individual that I tend to watch every time he drops a video. And it's amazing some of the ones here that will make a whole bunch of sense, not medically and psychologically, as far as the DSM-4 and 5 goes. Haven't read that book, but one thing we have done, we've experienced something that you cannot readily put in a book in the context in which we all individually have seen it, because it plays out differently. His name is The Elect of God. If you guys haven't seen his videos, go watch them. These people who I recommend, they don't need my endorsements. I simply recognize them as an impact in my life, and I believe that you'll be blessed by them too. The Elect of God, he has about 22,000 subscribers, so if that tells you anything. So he's doing very well by numbers, but as I said, they don't need me to endorse him. It's just a personal thing, and I hope it's okay with whoever I recommend on here, that here's their name or whatnot. In no way am I trying to, I'm not trying to do anything but encouraging each and every one of you all to keep searching out different avenues and different people like ourselves that have lived this and been through it. But they were not expecting you. And again, my friend Denzel Moss was speaking of workplace. There's a lot of information in videos that I am thinking I'm going to make going forth about workplace narcissists and how this is a warfare in the workplace. Because let's understand something. Your workplace, on average, an 8-hour shift in most countries. 8 hours is considered a work shift. 40-hour week is considered a normal work week. Now add to that 2 to 4 to 8 to 10 hours of overtime. So you're at about 50 hours of work. This is 50 hours, adding in the time to go to and from that job, the commute. So you add in, say, average 30 minutes each way. Let's say 15 minutes each way, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's 150 minutes. That's roughly, I don't know, 2 hours and a half. So we're at 52 and a half. My point is, you spend most of your time away from home, be it at a workplace. Now add in sporting events with your kids or the things that you have to do at your own leisure away from work. You spend about 5 to 8 hours a night sleeping. So do 10 hours, 12 and a half commute, 2 and a half to that. Maybe 3 more to that, we'll say 15 hours a day you spend away from home. You add 8 hours of sleep into there. That's 23 hours. So on average, you're spending anywhere from 3 to 5 hours awake, possibly with your family at home. My whole reason for breaking this down is because The influences that you have in your life are gathered more so from the outside more than from the inside. And for the sake of this conversation, inside of your own home, in your domain, your private area, your sanctuary. So that being the case, this is an urgency why this stuff has to be talked about more than anything else I know is workplace. Over half of your day, or a third of your day, with the exception of the 8 hours sleep, and if you take that out of the equation or into an equation, you are spending almost half of your time awake at your job. So this is the urgency why workplace narcissists as a whole needs to be talked about. And I myself personally, I'm experiencing a lot of the stuff that Denzel Moss is speaking of. When you walk in a room, these people become silent. When you walk in the eating area, the workplace break room, if you will, there's a full-on conversation. All of a sudden, dead silence. You can actually hear a rat pee on cotton, as we say back home. And if their conversation resumes or starts up, you can see that the whole, if you listen very well, the conversation shifts to some asinine dialogue that has nothing, no rhyme or reason to it. So in essence, you know that they, or the person that begins to speak, is just making up a conversation to mask what was being spoken of before. Now, it doesn't have to be they're speaking about you specifically, because I mean, we're chosen one. We're already set apart. We don't have to pat ourselves on the back. We are unique in and of ourselves, without having to, say we are. But they will be talking about something so mundane, so frivolous, so trivial, to the point where they don't want you to know. They want to appear important. They want to appear that what we're talking about, you can't hear it because you're not one of us. Glad I didn't make that team. Now, we don't have any reason to be mad. We don't have any reasons to be discouraged, disgusted, or even put off by this. But we must recognize it for what it is. And what you adopt into your life, if you haven't already begun to do this, adopt this into your life, as I have. You go to work, from the time you walk out of your house, the identity that you are well aware of that you have, just maintain that identity. You can go in a department store, you're minding your own business. This is the power we possess. You're minding your own business. I think I mentioned Best Buy the other day. I went in to get another screen saver for my phone because I cracked the other one. Real bad with phones. Long story short, they sent the new replacement, and I went to get the screensaver. And they were putting it on. I let them put it on because it was, cost so much money. I don't want to deal with that. And so went just looking around the store. And this elderly gentleman, he was drawn to me, and I immediately sensed that this person was going to try to bombard me with some kind of dialogue. And we know this, we can see it, we can sense it. And so I immediately turned the other cheek to some degree, and I began to just, give the illusion that I was just like fixated on something in this area. And all of a sudden I hear from a short distance, 10 foot away, hey, you know about these TVs, I'm sure. What kind of TV should I buy? And I turned to him and politely, but directly said, I don't really watch TV. I couldn't really tell you. Most of the TV I watch is YouTube. Nothing good on TV. So I turned away. hoping that that would kind of turn him off of even wanting my input. But he persisted. Oh, I know. I just figured you would know. Tell me, just, do you think? He continued to persist, asking me what I think when I really had already given the writing on the wall that I was not even interested in a conversation. Now, doing this almost activates an intensity on the part of the dark energy. It's kind of like a turn off to them is a turn on. Now, these things, years ago, for someone to be speaking in the context of the way I'm speaking and other content creators, it would have been deemed lunacy. And even some people, I'll give it a dark energy, and sometimes even the minions and codependent, they may in fact define what we're talking about as lunacy. We're straight back crazy because they have not awakened, for one. They're in the matrix, and for two, they're conditioned to a way of thinking, and they're conditioned so much so to think logically, independently. It would, in their mind, subconsciousness, be deemed as judgmental. I'm unfit. I got to get along, play along to get along. So when you realize that what you have and you possess, this knowledge, is something unique in and of itself, something that we didn't create within ourselves, it was God ordained from when you were born, even before you were born, because the good word said, before you were even born, he put his spirit in your heart. Now, people who don't believe in the Bible, I'm not here to try to convince people of what is and what isn't, but I'll tell you this, I'm not walking back God in my life and the word of God as being what it is. And I told someone years ago, before I even awakened to all of this foolishness, because a lot of people be like, oh, that book was wrote, and I've said this before, the book was wrote by the white man, the book was wrote by man, and I've heard it all from each race. Each race has an excuse for why they don't want to embrace truth, goodwill, whatever you want to word it as, goodwill, wholesome values. We try to find our values from the world system and hope and believe that that will get us through. We'll stand on the podium and get an award, and it was just butterflies and whatnot because we've accomplished something before man. But we denounce something that's solid, wholesome, and that has depth to it, that doesn't even need anyone's validation. It's a self-awareness. It's a sense of self-value. That's what the Word of God does for me. Who wouldn't want that? But I'm going to tell you why we don't want that. We don't seek that because that is the very thing that we need. That's why Paul said things I want to do, those are the things that I don't do. The things that I don't want to do, those are the very things that I keep doing. That in itself should tell you something is true about this word. But that's another subject for another time. Back to what I'm saying, these people know your energy. They know when you are who you are, you're something that they don't recognize. And therefore they didn't expect. They didn't expect. It's like you're a UFO dropping down in the middle of the workplace. They've seen it before, but they soon get them kicked off to the curb, terminated. Then all of a sudden, another one comes along with the light, just like the one before, but different. Light carrier. They'll all look at each other like, here we go again. Another one. It's an unspoken telepathy that the dark energy has. And just like people with light energy, we recognize one another too. And out of a lot of people that who could have become a friend of me, to me, as Denzel Moss has, we don't talk a lot, but we definitely are excited and genuinely interested to hear one another's doing well. We have a saying back home. My mom, I believe, told me this when I was younger. As you know or not, I'm from Alabama. My mom always used to say, she said, a friend is someone you rarely see, but who's always there for you. Their friendship is not contingent on how much money they can loan you or how much they come around, how much they can do for you. You're happy to know that they're doing okay. And you call them and you reach out to them often as you can. And if a great amount of time goes by, months, even a few years, it's like you've never lost any amount of time, because that friendship is not contingent on those things, those superficial things. You want the best for that person, whether in presence or in absence. So they were not expecting you, and they don't know how to reciprocate your kindness, your genuineness, your authenticity. Your authenticity is a different type of authenticity than the fabricated authenticity of narcissists. Because you got to understand, they mimic you in your good behavior and your good qualities. So this is all an act, it's all a script. And some of the actors from the 50s and the 60s, I look at some of the older sitcoms when I do tend to peek at the TV, which is often at the workplace, and they're playing the older films, and I look at how stellar these actresses and actors were. They didn't even have the cheat sheets as we do today, and their authenticity was just, man, it was stellar. Let's take Lucille Ball. I Love Lucy. Let's take that one for example. If you want to really see theatrics and humor, the whole 9 yard, the way these people, they worked and act off of each other like a well-oiled machine. Now, narcissists can't do that. They can do like some of the modern actors and actresses do in some of these sitcom, these spoof-offs, to where it doesn't have to look authentic or genuine. But that's just part of the humor. People like to be entertained today. They don't care whether it's authentic or not. Any humor is better than no humor at all. Everybody wants to laugh everything off. Everything's a joke. But guess who's not a joke? You. When you show up, it's serious business. You the empath, the chosen one. When you show up, it's serious business. All hell breaks loose then. Did you know that you were the narcissist's last hope to understand that God cares about them and wants them to change? You were the last chance. They'll never get another chance to know God in the way that they could have known him through you. And then we're not talking about you being this righteous one, this righteous person, because again, this is something you possess, but you didn't orchestrate this, you didn't craft this within yourself. You were chosen. You didn't choose yourself. You were set apart. And so for that reason, because you didn't create this essence in yourself, you embrace this essence. Unlike the narcissist, they rejected wholesome essence. They rejected wholesome depth, wholesome authenticity. They rejected it. Satan was the first narcissist, Lucifer. If you notice, he was the minister of music, and I bet you he was probably like Beethoven, of sorts. Impeccable minister of music. What happened? He was too good for his own damn self. And see, this is what a narcissist Achilles' heel is. When they are so good at something, they fool themselves. They become unaware of their limitations. They become unaware of their futile efforts to be perfect. And they begin to strive for the perfection, and in doing so, they believe that they're the ones that created their own perfection. They put in the work, so they feel like they need to reap all the rewards of their good nature. I'm good just because I'm good. Like Beyonce said, I woke up like this. It's interesting when you wake up as an empath and a chosen one. There's layers and layers of stuff you can talk about. Me, for example, I don't see myself doing my platform on a grand scale, getting organized per se as a lot of my friends and content creators as a whole. There are things I could do to drum up a lot more views. Not to say that that's a bad thing, so hear me well. What I mean by that is I'm not in a place in my life that I can be devoted to this in a way that I believe viewers need me to be devoted to it, because these friends of mine, these content creators with thousands and hundreds of thousands of views, this is more than an occupation for a lot of them. This is a way of life. This is something that they're passionate about. This is something that they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears into. And this is their calling. And likewise, this is my calling as well. But my point is, God will put you where you need to be when you need to be there. My friend Denzel, I first met him, he was definitely eager to encourage me and give me some leads in the direction of helping me create a page. I mean, full disclosure, and to which I even mentioned to him, I say, I just want a video, get on and just talk about some things from time to time. Because as you may or may not know, I'm a single father. My twins live with me. I actually have a good job. I just started here recently, into which the video that I'm speaking of, you're on borrowed time as an empath. Doesn't matter how good or bad the job is, financially speaking, how much or less you're making. You as an empath, you're on borrowed time, but be of good cheer, because guess what? You're not going anywhere God doesn't want you to go. And you're not going to have anything that's not for you. And you're not going to keep anything that's not for you. But if it's for you, it doesn't matter who's against you. When God opens the door, no man can shut it. When he shuts the door, no man can open it. This is what the book says. You ever wonder why people were out to get you, but they never could succeed? I had my sternum broken when I was in the county jail fighting for custody of my children. I got in a fight with a guy at my age, in my 40s. In jail, these guys can be in their 30s and even 40s. They're acting like kids. Their mentality is fractured, something. And I know all too well that this individual possibly could have been, he was. But a narcissist, but under the disguise of schizophrenia. And there may be some people dealing with schizophrenia, but this particular guy, I believe it was more so a narcissistic personality disorder. And so, got in a fight. He charged me. I punched him before he was able to Well, actually, no. Let me rewind. He charged me. He was shorter than me. Charged at me, and thereby I went sort of airborne, backwards, and my back hit the concrete, landed on my back, and the full weight of his body landed on top of me, and it fractured my sternum. And officers came in, and they broke up the incident, and I spent about 30 days in isolation, which is where you go when you're into a confrontation, physical confrontation. And thank God I did, because it took all of that month for my chest to heal. I literally had to sit up in a sitting position, leaning my back against the wall in the corner on my bunk. This is how I had to sleep for a month, because to lay down was so excruciating. They didn't even provide me with a bandage to suppress my chest cavity, and I began to sneeze. If I sneezed, oh God, it was one of the worst pains I've ever experienced in my life. My point to this is, as some content creators have mentioned, all through life we have been singled out for destruction. This individual I got in this fight with, actually, you know, when we tell these stories, there's always these blanks, and then we have to revert. Let me revert. When we got in this fight, they didn't readily put us in isolation. They immediately put us in our cells that we were in when we came in to the jail. I was in my cell awaiting them to do the paperwork and whatnot on the situation. So they sent us to isolation after that, 3 or 4 days after that. And maybe about 10, 15 days after being in isolation, I was in isolation. This individual was in isolation somewhere else, but he got moved. And guess where they moved him to? They moved him into my pod 2 weeks later, which was a no-no. Under state and county law, you're not supposed to put inmates together that have been in a physical altercation, because of the fact that you're the property of the county or that state institution. Your safety is their responsibility, and if anything happens to you, this could be a major lawsuit. Well, anyway, my bigger point being, 15 days later, I see him coming into the alleyway, and I kind of gently reminded the officer, I said, me and this guy just got in a fight 2 weeks ago, and I don't think they're supposed to move us in the same pod. He was doing razors, shaving razors, giving them out, and there was a lot of people bombarding him with a lot of different things. And so he said, okay, I'll take care of it in a second, to which he pushed or scanned his card and allowed the group of guys, it was 4 or 5 of them, to come into the pod in which I was standing in. And this was, breakfast had just resumed. I mean, not resumed, it had commenced. And so we were, the guys, one of the trustee guys, which is an inmate, was gathering up the trays. And I was standing around the table with a few other guys, and with my eye continually on them, he moved over towards the officer station. Officer took his name, pointed in a direction out in front of me, which would have been to the back of this individual I had just fought 2 weeks ago, telling him that that's your cell down there. So me and this guy were almost 5 foot apart, and I'm looking at him with a solemn stare, and he's looking at me with his what you call his tote. It's just a little plastic bin with blanket and whatnot. He's carrying it, and I almost could anticipate he was going to make a move, and I was correct. He dropped his bin immediately over there, and he went to charge me. This is the second incident within 2 weeks, and as he charged me, I threw a left, and I hit him. I connected with him somewhere around his eye. So his whole momentum went into the blow. And so when I did that, he did like this. Like he was trying to get his wits about himself. And when he was able to get his bearings, again, he charged me again. Identical scenario, but only this time I grabbed the tray, which there's plastic trays like this. And you know, this is survival of the fittest, by the way, guys. So I'm giving you the details of what happens in jail. It's not like a officer. Can you tell him, don't bother me? This is man. This is man meet man. This is survival of the fittest. So when he's charging me, in that moment, I grabbed the tray and I actually slammed it against his head and didn't even deter him at all. And he charged me. And as he charged me, I would have thought this would have been enough to kind of, quell the situation and discourage him from any other confrontation. And again, he charges me. I ended up landing on my back again, and he lands on my chest again. Now that first fight injured me, and I believe the second one injured me even more. And I think it probably injured it more severely. And so from that point, I was put back in my cell, and they allowed him to stay in that same pod, and they had us on lockdown. And for those 30 days, I was sitting up, sleeping, and my trays were given to me in my cell. Of course, you have a toilet, you have a sink, and you have a bed. So there's no reason really why we had to come out other than showers. And when we were showered, they made sure he didn't come out when I came out. Then later on down the line, about 3 weeks into isolation, I went to the shower, and it was like they had this guy out of the shower when I was out. So we both are out, almost walking in proximity of one another. This is how dark energy empowers, and people empowered can pretty much do you as an empath. You can be set up to be assassinated. It didn't make logical sense back then. Even then, it just seemed that something inside of me felt like these people were trying to allow this person to annihilate me. For what reason? I was just a normal human being there. Of course, I was in fighting for custody of my children. I always thought back then, did the judge have some kind of influence on this? Did this influence go so deep? Because I was making so much noise about the details of baby mama that I was fighting for custody of, and the details of that are so long. We won't even get into that. But mother was disturbed and is disturbed in a different type of way that most people wouldn't even recognize. So main thing is the children eventually were able to be in a safer place than they normally would have been if I hadn't fought so hard and vehemently. But this is what they do. They try to continue to annihilate you. The powers that be, wherever they are, they don't know you personally, but they know you carry the light. And again, this stuff sounds so sci-fi. It sounds something out of some kind of sci-fi movie. We're just one more pandemic or epidemic from Hunger Games. I haven't seen that movie as a whole, but the gist of it, people are killing each other for food and survival. This is what we're living in. Just imagine what the pandemic did. You had homicide went up, infidelity went through the roof, domestic violence went through the roof, and now we're off of the drug of isolation. And psychologically, a lot of us are coming out of a fog. And the chosen ones, it was a double doozy for us. But I think we're healing the best. We're healing the best. People who um, may not have experienced this narcissistic personality disorder abuse. Say empaths that may not have had a whole bunch of abuse come their way and that are not awake like you and I are. They are in the matrix, as we all are or have been in times past, here or there. They are not even healing as good as I believe empaths that have been abused by narcissists. Those same type of empaths, they healed differently. I want to believe they healed and rebound differently after the pandemic. They're the ones that you'll hear. They'll be placating the narcissist's viewpoints, and they're championing what they hear in the propaganda. They're championing that. They're cheerleading. Oh, but you just got to do what you got to do in life, and you can't worry about it. What are you going to do? That's their big word. What are you going to do? They even say this. I say, hey, how you doing? Good-natured people, seemingly. Oh, same shit, different day. I used to say that. How are you doing, man? I'll be doing good when 3:30 come, or 3 o'clock, or 7 p.m., whatever time they got to get off work. This is what people do. They have no ambition. Their life is full of disgust. Full of just a lot of emptiness. Even myself, I'm looking for a purpose in life. And what I mean by looking for purpose, I'm not out rigorously searching for purpose. It's just I'm doing that within my own realm of space. I'm not trying to find out my purpose in life in a way where it's not healthy. I'm not in a hurry. I'm not in a rush. Although I am just paying attention to the small voice and the directives from God to say, there's a purpose in life. And things like this, the videos we do, this is the purpose. This is one of the greatest purposes that God has for us. And until He tells me something different, this is a big part of that, raising my children in a way to understand that the world you live in isn't always what it seems. But that doesn't mean you have to live an unfulfilled life, because there are other people that are unfulfilled. Be a part of changing the world that you want to see. I've heard that before. So I got that from somewhere. And that's not just sound bites. That's truly how I feel, and I think a lot of us who have recovered from this atrocious thing called narcissistic abuse. They didn't see you coming. They weren't expecting you. Workplace. When you go there, go in and do the best job you can do. Go in and be a part of progress. Don't go in expecting more than you believe that you should be getting, even though maybe somebody else is getting more than you believe they should be getting. Put in a genuine 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours of work. Because most jobs, you have a set of instructions. And they see that you're happy and content doing some of the things that they have you doing, they'll continue to make you change. They'll put you all over the place. That happens. Or they may find out, if it's a company that is really fluid and they need all hands on deck and they see this thing is running fluidly, they would rather keep you there. Even though they don't want you there, they will keep you in that position because they don't want to rock the boat. And again, they want to look good on paper for the higher ups above them. That garners them supply. This is how the food chain works. It's not trying to make you look good. You're making them look good. So they'll stroke your ego or your self-esteem, saying, oh, good job. Keep up the good work. It's a different kind of pat. Or, you know how the game goes. There's so much to it. But you take that, you take it in account, and you say, you're welcome. Don't buy into that more than you have to. These different types of illusions that these people give off, what they're doing is they're trying to draw you in to their sick, twisted circle. And as soon as you get comfortable and relaxed, that's when they pull the rug or from under you. They pull that trap door. This is what I wanted to talk about. They didn't expect you. They didn't see you coming. This is what we'll have to deal with for a long time to come until the good Lord comes back. But be of good cheer. Bless.